Greetings, friends, crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met, has taken another turn about its imaginary axis, and of course, continues creating events in full development. And today we start with the Middle East. What could happen on a Friday? Well, what we're usually used to. A strike between Israeli and Palestinian forces, and dead people, wounded people, and many people apprehended as well. The resolutions, strong, of the United Nations are respected, by the way, based on which the different governments of Israel work for human rights based on the Palestine. And I was there. I was in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem to speak about these topics. I had this honor. I was invited by whom? By General Sharon. He was here in the study. What did he say? The ambassador was Liba, not Lebanon, as it was mentioned in a correction. The ambassador, Liba, brought General Sharon when the Israeli embassy was just in the corner of the channel. And the general gave me one of the most important honors. He stopped speaking English because I told him, listen, General, I was part of an economy, I was part of an academy, and I will speak to you with respect. You are here as the Minister of Agriculture, but you will not stop until you become the Minister of Defense. And then you will at least invade Lebanon. And he was red. He started blushing. He used to do this. And he told the ambassador Liba, and he told the ambassador to translate. Why is this one of the greatest honors that I have gotten in over 50 years of being a journalist? He said, listen, I was expecting to have a bad time on the BBC or in the CBS, the important networks of the United States and London. This channel was part of the CBS. They were born together for the public. So he said he was expecting to have a bad time there. But it appears that you do know about the politics in the Middle East. I would like you to visit my farm in Israel. He gave me his business card with his private number. It's not something I'd like to brag. So then this is what happened. I visited him. And back then, I had the chance of visiting an academic debate in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Some of the viewers spoke about this, so I repeat how this happened. And I said, I mentioned in Caracas that I am not here as many of the delegates of this event to just speak about the things you want to speak about Palestine, about the Middle East. I'm here to say what I think as a Christian, as a Catholic, and as brothers of the Old Testament. And then I said what I think and what I say here, and then a young person raised his hand and he said, I want to speak. And they asked him, why do you want to speak? This is an international event. He said, whether it is international or not, I have the right to speak here. Because you, the old people, those who believe the patriarchs that will save us, you came from Europe. But I was born here. I was born in Israel. Sabr is the cacti of the desert, a very aggressive on the outside, however, very juicy on the inside, and I had the chance to learn about this. So then this person said, I want to say that the position developed by the Venezuelan journalists, yours truly, this is what I think as well, because the old people, the ones like you, are the ones creating the war. But we, the young, are the ones who will die because of this. And the old people are violating this resolution of the United Nations. They have been occupying land based on the rights of the Palestinians, stepping over them. And there are many, many resolutions of the UN about this. However, Israel, with the support of the USA, that has the right to veto on the Security Council, so they do whatever they want with it. So today we're going to see once again there are more people dead in the Middle East. Why isn't there an agreement? Because there's no political will. Those who believe in Heret Israel, the Great Israel, we spoke about this in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, is a very big territory that goes beyond any type of current law. But this is objective information. Now, let's take a look at the events in full development. And we will understand what happens every Friday about this, as long as there are protests and movements from the Palestinian side. Let's take a look at what's happened today. Armed forces of Israel firing tear gas and bullets as well. Bullets. As every Friday, there's a protest in Gaza. Israeli soldiers with armored vehicles in the border between Gaza and Israel, and peaceful protests are welcomed with tear gas and bullets as well. Of course, military bullets. A Palestinian flag on the right of the screen. Some armored vehicles on the Israeli side. Palestinians walking to the border with Gaza. People meeting in the border, some ambulances, people getting down off the buses near the border to protest their right to comply with the regulations of the United Nations that were the ones who created the modern state of Israel. Our resistance is the key for our return, as stated by that sign, while the Palestinian flag waves. The border area, where Palestinians are near the border, soldiers and military vehicles on the other side, on the Israeli side. What's that? Erhaba? Palestinians protesting in the borders. Some kites fly in the sky. They have been using kites in order to send kites with bombs. And here we can listen to two bells. The army stated they were taking measures to disperse Palestinians, some who threw stones to the troops and also threw and burned tires and tried to stop any violation of the fence. That's a flag, and that's a kite bringing fire. Israeli forces are doing what they have always done. They killed 4 Palestinians while protests resume in Gaza. Based on this, young people there, the medical team, the spokesperson of the Israeli army, Jonathan Cunningham, will speak to reporters. And the spokesperson of the Israeli army is trying to explain what cannot be explained. Young Palestinians killed during the fights, bullets against the stones used by Palestinians. Jonathan Cornicus mentioned, it is important today to understand that the Al-Quds Day, the day when the fundamentalist Iranian regime decided to use Jerusalem for their own purpose, Hamas chose Jerusalem for their own purposes, and Hamas wants to organize another attack against Israel, another strike. And today, at 6, there are 12,000 participants in 5 different places in the Gaza Strip. Take a look at the wall. I had the chance to cross the Berlin Wall, and it was tiny compared to this. Tiny compared to this gigantic wall. So there are still dead people on the Palestinian side after being shot with military bullets. Results of all these protests. Grenades being dropped there. Palestinians in the border. Israeli troops killed 4 Palestinians and wounded other hundreds this Friday with real fire and also with tear gas. And this is not any kind of tear gas against the protesters on Gaza, according to doctors. This was related to the Day of Jerusalem in Iran, where Hamas called this in Gaza and predicate for the destruction of Israel based on them according to be acknowledged by the United States, Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Of course, this was a commitment before the elections of Trump, and he needed to have all the support of the community. People from Iran also marching, and 3 adults and one 15-year-old were killed on Friday. 618 people were wounded, 120 with bullets. Amongst the wounded, there was a photographer of the Francois, a 23-year-old, who was on life support after a tear gas bullet penetrated his face, and he was subject to life support because he was in the ICU, and then he was hit by gas. It's a never-ending drama. Iranians marching, supporting the Palestine country. There were also certain events related to this, and there haven't been any Israeli victims for over 2 months throughout the Gaza Strip, but Israel has lost some forests and also some crops on the side of the border due to fires caused by Palestinian flags that we just showed that bring in their tail fire items. 3 adults and a 15-year-old were killed on Friday, according to the media. Iranians marched supporting the Palestinians today in the sacred day of Islam. Friday for Islam is like Sunday for Catholics. 900 cities, including Tehran, had strikes, and these people brought signs showing solidarity to the Palestinian people while requesting the end of the illegal occupation of the territories of Palestine, violating all UN resolutions. Their signs claimed against the decision of bringing the embassy of the States to Jerusalem, and also the actions of Washington against Palestinians. This is Korea. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore visiting Pyongyang. Minister of Foreign Affairs of North Korea. This is the Chancellor, Rian Yong-gu, shaking hands with the export minister of Singapore. And the delegation of Singapore with officers of North Korea in the meeting room with the national flags of North Korea. We will listen to the Balakristan delegation as well as other workers of North Korea. They will sit down and start a very important bilateral meeting, part of this international agenda. Assembly Hall, flag of North Korea, picture with the most important members of the delegation. The Vice President of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Chung Wi-choi. The Office of North Korea. And for Krishnan Choi, while shaking hands, high officers are sitting down for the bilateral meeting. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore. Days before, Singapore will hold a meeting between North Korea and the United States with a video provided by KSNA. North Korea is the source of this information. Reuters mentioned that they cannot independently verify this. And the main nations of G7 are here in an important meeting. This is still Korea, however. But now, this is the G7, where they're fighting to be able to go against the attacks of bilateral commerce of Trump. Theresa May and Shinzo Abe, together with Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel. Justin Trudeau from Canada, the son of the famous Trudeau. We had the chance to meet him in Canada with his last conference. And then he was somehow mocking the Queen with a somersault, and this is his son, Justin Trudeau, Donald Trump, and the President of the European Council, Tusk, and the European Commission, Claude Juncker, and David Trudeau. And next to them, Merkel and the rest of presidents. Giuseppe Conte was also there, walking with them, and the presidents reaching the line. Presidents looking at the cameras: Tusk, May, Merkel, Trump, Trudeau, Macron, Evi, Conte, and Juncker. Merkel and Tusk speaking to the troops. This was a family picture. And of course, the main allies of the United States are trying to avoid the change of paths, while Trump is trying to stop trade against the allies with the ones that were his allies during World War II. Many members of G7 mentioned to Reuters that the different members of G7 would have it almost impossible to do this, and they will provide a summary of being successful during this summit. And there we have Angela Merkel and the President of the White House in their own bilateral meeting. The conference of G7 has led to protests in many different places. Important workers, and here, while burning furniture, someone playing the guitar. This is related to the United States. Protesters set fires to furniture in cities of Canada as well. In Quebec, the first day of the meeting of G7, people protested against world leaders by ignoring the interest of the people. It is unlikely that this will be interrupted during the meeting in Charlevoix that takes 2 hours in car. This is the guitarist we're speaking about, with his own amplifier. And here, the most important worker of China wants to deepen the relations with Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. So this is the Popular National Assembly shaking their hands. This is the meeting place, and they're speaking while Azerbaijan is listening. Attendees of the meeting between Lee and Azerbaijan while speaking, and this meeting is in course. This was not quite broadcasted. Cameras were allowed, however, not audio. The meeting between Lee and Nazarbayev is ongoing, closely followed. There's a very wide hall. There's a mural about the Great Wall of China. The legislator is providing a flower gift to the monument remembering this peace. The President of Iran arriving at Qingyao for the 18th summit of SCO, plane landing of Hassan Rouhani, President, Chinese soldiers in honor formation welcoming him. Rouhani, people of security stepping out first, and then Rouhani coming down the stairs in the airport, shaking the hands of the people welcoming him, will also being welcomed with flowers. And then getting into the special limousine with all security measures required for him. That's the bouquet given by a child who welcomes him as well. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani arrived at Qingyao in the Shandong province in the east of China for the 18th summit of the Cooperation Organization of Shanghai. This is one of the 4 observer states, together with Afghanistan, Belarus, and Mongolia. OCS, Organization for Cooperation of Shanghai, was founded in Shanghai in 2001 with 6 member states: China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. In 2017, the OCS added 2 new members, India and Pakistan. So it's a very powerful group. Additionally to the member states and observer states, the OCS has also 6 partners for dialogue: Azerbaijan, Armenia, Cambodia, Nepal, Turkey, and Sri Lanka. It is expected that the annual summit of this organization will create a new strategy to better connect the nations in development and foster regional cooperation. Vladimir Putin arriving at Qingdao for the 18th summit of SCO, the one that we were speaking about. Guard of honor for him, of course. So far, he is the fastest one climbing down the stairs. He's an expert in martial arts, but also he has the best physical state. Then welcomed by the people, China is the first country he is visiting during his new mandate, where he met with President Xi Jinping, and the two leaders reached a consensus during the conversation in Beijing. Putin then took a high-speed train to Tianjin and then flew to Qingdao for the summit mentioned before, established in Shanghai in 2001 with China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan as founding members, and in 2017 the OCS added 2 new members, India and Pakistan, as we mentioned before. And take a look at the armoring of this limousine. It is expected that the yearly summit of OCS will create a new strategy to better connect the initiatives of the countries. And the escorts running along the car, just like they do in America. Putin agrees to bring the relations between China and Russia to a glorious future. Together with Xi Jinping walking down the red carpet.
Putin 总统是具有
Xi Jinping said, the personal efforts of President Putin in the last years for the relations between China and Russia have endured the test of the international situation in constant change. Our political trust and strategy has continually improved, and our cooperation in different fields has progressed wildly. Friendship between the peoples has deepened widely. High-level relationships between China and Russia have benefited both peoples and have set a good example of coexistence between international powers. And neighbors have contributed to promote a new type of international relationship and building a community for the rest of the humanity. Honoring the Chinese community, we're going to listen to the original sound.
多年来的高度重视和亲自推动，中俄关系经受住国际风云变幻的考验，政治和战略互信不断的深化，各领域的合作得到了长足的发展。
I am willing to work with President Putin to achieve relationships for China and Russia in a better future. The strategic association as well as cooperation and mutual benefits.
邻国和谐共处的典范，为推动国际关系、新兴国际关系、构建人类命运共同体做出了重要贡献。
Vladimir Putin answered with a very interesting speech as well.
我愿继续同普京总统一道，秉持睦邻友好、战略协作、合作共赢的精神。
The promise made in the Great Hall of the people of Beijing when Xin confirmed the first of the friendship to Putin due to his contribution for the promotion of relations between China and Russia were reflected here. The Great Hall of the people, I have been there twice, and then you understand why it is called the Great Hall. It is the biggest hall with a ceiling but without internal columns. China grants the medal of friendship to President Putin.
Добрососедством и дружбой с Китайской Народной Республикой. Мы гордимся общими достижениями в политике, экономике, науке, культуре. Ценим достигнутый высокий уровень.
Our country values good friendship and the friendship with China. We are proud of our achievements on politics, science, and culture and appreciate high level of cooperation that has been achieved in the international community. Of course, we firmly believe in the success of all our commitments. I would like to thank you once again for this honor, and I would like to deepen a strategic cooperation between Russia and China for the prosperity of both countries. I hope that this is the best for both peoples. Let us say that the Order of Friendship of China is the biggest award granted to foreigners, and there have been some very interesting contributions in the modernization campaign. Vladimir Putin gets the Medal of Honor from Xi Jinping on Friday, June 8, and this shows the close links between Russia and China. Signing document for bilateral agreements, exchanging documents. This is what usually happens. And President Vladimir Putin gathered today one of the greatest awards granted by China. He is in a state visit of China, and he will participate in the cooperation meeting in Shanghai during this weekend. He calls this conference with China and Russia. This is to fight against radical Islam and other concerns about security with their own countries and all Central Asia. After mentioning this shows a very interesting response, because these are the two main powers, and now they're hand by hand, and this should be concerning for the president, who now resides in the White House, who has the trend to follow the position of commander-in-chief. Now I have 3 satellite screens, and none of them show any information that should be studied now before a second block. Therefore, we're going to proceed with a short break, and we will be back with more events in full development, in order to provide a second interesting block, but not least than the first one, because we're taking a look at the events happening in full development. However, should we get more information in the monitors here, we'll let you know immediately. Short break, we'll be right back. Stay where you are.
Queremos verdad, reparación integral, pero sobre todo justicia, pero justicia social.
How many ways there are to tell a story? The different perspectives of our nations are on Telesur documentaries. Sundays, only on Telesur. Telesur features the developments of science and technology that innovate and make the world go around.
Eso es Atomum, transmitimos desde América Latina. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas.
Technology available to everybody. Atomum. Mondays, only on Telesur.
We are back with more events in full development. And now we have the statement of the Bolivian Army for Dossier. Information about the 3rd Latin American ship, 2018. Training ship Bravo Eco Simon Bolivar, Bravo Eco 11. Operational activities on the framework of the training cruise Velas Americanas. It's now in Antofagasta. This is the last dock in Chile. It's the 11th one in their journey. And Bravo Eco is carrying out academic activities. Let us remember, this is a training ship. And additional to the Navy activities, you study a lot. Cadets were trained by guard groups. Let's take a look at our model. We already have 2 models of our ship. That one is there for those who were complaining about it only having 7 stars. This one is the previous model, but now we have another one with 8 stars. My favorite is this one, even though the other one is also very, very nice. But it has been part of this program for many years, and I'm an honorary member of it. There were Navy calculations, Navy arts, fulfilling the study plan Simón Bolívar. Climate conditions, dispersed cloudiness, no precipitation expected, wind up to 15 knots, good visibility, waves up to 1.5 meters. And today on the Navy glossary, we're going to listen to the word batimento in Spanish. It's a deviation of the vessel that takes place when the ship is forced by the wind. This is an angle that is formed by the wind. Derrota, this is the word, is my guide. And then there's a theoretical front that divides into 2 the whole of the whole ship. And it states that there's a difference between my route and based on the wind I have to negotiate between these 2 so that the result would allow me to follow the direction that I want to head to. It's stated, batimento, abatimiento. Abatimiento is the word, deviation of the road due to wind action. The angle formed, which is the axis from the prow to the stow, is the one that provides the resulting angle. And we have the different members, and we have Ponte, who's the ship captain, and Michael Chelen, the commander of the Bolivian Army. Now this is north of Chile. This is already a new crew, the first one that followed them throughout this. Navigated through the sea, and now the second crew will follow this stage. They will have to go through the Panama Canal and come back to the Caribbean. Beautiful experience crossing the Panama Canal. I did this twice. It's even better if you can be in the pro to understand how this works. Often, a passenger of a cruise ship can't do it, but I wasn't part of a cruise ship. I will not let you know where I was, but it wasn't a cruise ship. However, we will continue. I have 3 satellite monitors, and we'll continue with more events in full development. for the second part of our dossier. Very interesting information here that we need to pay attention to. The Ministry of Spain, where Sanchez holds his first cabinet meeting. This is Madrid with Pedro Sanchez in the round table. Vice President, the Prime Minister, and Carmen Calvo, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Josep Borrell, the Minister of State, new faces, most of them quite young, Minister of Health, Carmen Monton, Minister of Science, Pedro Duque, a round table, as you can see. Sanchez speaking with Borrell, and then shots are fired during this tense event, regardless of the smile shown, based on the events happening in the government space. Carmen Calvo, part of the round table, Josep Borrell as well, Minister of Foreign Affairs, in the Moncloa Palace, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the European Union Cooperation. So, a wide government table where absolutely nothing important was said while cameras were there with microphones. However, they kept face. Maria Calvo, Minister of Economy. Guatemala requests foreign support. In the meantime, let us remember what's happened there. This is still Spain. That's called the ministry portfolio, because that's a metaphor. Even though this is a briefcase that looks like the one used on a plane filled with documents. Well, this is the portfolio that represents each one of the ministries. This is Carmen Calvo, the Moncloa Palace, of course. Maxim Huerta will also be part of our picture. So there are a lot of women there. Each one of the members of the cabinet were followed by the press, at least when they arrived. And each one of them bringing the portfolio with all the information they need to show. Minister of Culture and Sports as Huerta, Maxim Huerta, and the Minister of the Interior, Fernando Grande. Minister of Defense, Margarita Robles, and Arlasca, also there. Minister of Science, Pedro Duque. The new Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, celebrated his first cabinet meeting on this Friday, June 8, and Sanchez was brought by nationalist parties that supported him after overthrowing Rajoy due to the corruption scandal, where Rajoy was shameful. For the first time in the history of Spain, women have been part of the most important positions of the government. They were lagging behind. And they are showing their colors, even though it rains. Ministers often don't get too wet in Spain. The new government has different professions, including an astronaut for the science minister, the prosecutor of state for jihadist studies for the Minister of Defense and Justice, a negotiator for the Treaty on Climate Change, to bring these things forward, the Minister of Environment, Sanchez, whose Socialist Party has only 84 of the 350 people in the Congress. Guatemala requesting international support. The country of Guatemala increases number of deaths after the eruption of the volcano Fuego. Let's take a look at the logistics. A truck filled with supplies for rescue. People walking down the station. People bringing down supplies from the truck. One of the many. There are never enough, and people queuing up for items they need to survive. Bottled water, so that people can have drinking water, vehicles and people in the backyard, women washing clothes, others going into the aid center. This is the warehouse for support. Take a look at the crops. A whole crop has been lost. And this is a parallel drama. So this is what's happening in Guatemala. We should never joke about something like this. Even in the worst of circumstances, you need to keep a smile. Take a look at the problems with the structure. People cleaning whatever they can. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Guatemala requests international support because the number of deaths due to a powerful eruption of the volcano, highly active near the capital of the country, has now reached 109 victims. The ashes of the volcano, that is very abrasive, people are trying to get rid of it. Argentina gets an agreement for financing of the IMF for $50 billion. It is 11 times the quota of Argentina, and this shows the support of the international community to Argentina. And this is very good news that the integration of Argentina to the world allows us to have this type of support. That was the Minister Nicolás Lvovsny, and here President Mauricio Macri introducing Christine Lagarde. Macri also spoke during the meeting, and other members of his cabinet. The deficit of 2.2 for next year has been modified to 1.3, and for 2020 we are protecting the primary balance, while previously the deficit was of 1.2. For 2021 we have a surplus of 0.5% of GDP. This was the Minister of the Treasury, Nicolás Bosch, and this is a strike against the IMF. Good thing, good thing. Argentinian flags during the protest. Macri as part of the signs and the sketches, singing in the screen, in the streets, with a little bit of catharsis, but they're very against the situation happening in the world. The lyrics to that music cannot be said on a TV program, and they're not using the best of words to describe President Mauricio Macri. It is often used, however, in football matches. So, just how I sang, but with some bad words. So this is the city of Argentina, and CDA mentions the autonomous CDA summons a national strike with movement on June 16th based on the commitment on the federal march, and there was a federal strike with all things required. This means that there are going to be a lot of problems. Candidate López Obrador analyzes his campaign in the region of Mexico due to violent groups. This is the state of Guerrero. Community police walking down the streets. Welcome to Tlapa Guerrero. People that are part of the campaign. Andrés Manuel López Obrador walking with the crowd. This is state of Guerrero. This is one of the options, one of the candidates for the presidential election in Mexico. We care about this election because there's a lot of poverty and abandonment. Let me tell you once and for all that I will come back to Tlapac that as elected president. But before I become the president, I will be here with you. I will bring you the development plan for the mountain. What will happen in every community, in every village, in every municipality. Amongst other things, he spoke about amnesty in order to bring peace to Mexico due to violence between gangs. President Maduro, with the strong words, imperialism bites the dust with the defeat of the OAS. On his Twitter account, the president of the Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, wrote, "We have been victorious diplomatically in Washington. Imperialism beat the dust of the OAS. The champion team of Chancellery triumphed against the will of Vice President Mike Pence." He showed once again his acknowledgement of the Minister of Public Power for Foreign Affairs, Jorge Raza, in the OAS, defending the sovereignty of Venezuela against the will of the government of the States, trying to impose a resolution against Venezuela. Indeed, today, Friday, June 8th, we wanted to carry out this press conference to show a balance of the results and the options in the paper hands operations. It is important to highlight that the operation started in April had two purposes. First, to hit the mobs of organized crime linked to the extraction of the currency of Venezuela, and secondly, criminal organizations who imposed an speculation exchange rate, the parallel dollar. As you know, these mafias, and would like to ratify this claim, have as a hub for their operations the city of Cúcuta. All of this accepted by the government of the Republic of Colombia, directly by the president Juan Manuel Santos. Until now, take a look at the results of this operation. We have apprehended in cash 12 billion bolivars that were destined or that were going to be used for extraction. This physical paper money was then sent to Colombia, and in Colombia, the real value of each note was paid 3 times. And this was public and notorious and accepted by the authorities of the Colombian government. Something else that we should highlight that we have identified, we have registered through these operations over 30 billion bolivars that have been brought to this criminal needs. We have started with the third stage, a third stage called Steel Hands Operation, and this time to dismantle the bands that are part of smuggling metal and minerals of our nation, particularly gold. This operation, Steel Hands, started on June 4th, and as of today, there are 7 people apprehended, and we have created apprehension orders for 28 additional individuals. These gangs had an MO of buying gold to the small miners of the Bolivar state, and then through networks of organized crime, they brought it out of Venezuela. And then these organizations, so the country can realize that this is not about spontaneous crimes. This is about a war that has been perfectly designed and duly planned and thought to strike the national economic system. Now, they want to impose certain speculative prices on the cryptocurrencies that legally can be used in Venezuela within the internal market of Venezuela. Thus, will also establish future actions where all the accounts that we are able to identify that are linked to these operations of distortion of the cryptocurrency in Venezuela will also be severely punished and brought to justice. The new economic agenda of the Bolivarian Republic, the 15 different engines of the revolutions, the 15 economic engines will be undoubtedly the deployment in 2018 towards prosperity and stability of Venezuela. These groups, these criminal groups, these criminal organizations of organized crime and the mafias with complot with governments, and unfortunately losing their prestige and also linked to corruption, will not withdraw us from our purpose to ensure happiness to the people of Venezuela. So we ratify our commitment and we will continue working for Venezuela as a power. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you very much. Now take a look at this. The police officers go against the Mapuche people of Chile. A group of over 100 people were peacefully protesting support to Mapuches, the ones implied in the case, and the police of Chile repressed this small protest in Plaza Italia in Santiago, capital of Chile. Do you know that there isn't any free education in Chile? However, here, there's free education even before elementary school and until the university, and also for students. We say this with pride, not as a competition, because someone asked, and how do you do? And I will answer without giving name. Here, education is free, since kindergarten until a graduate degree. And there are also some scholarships to have more training with everything strategic to us. Sadly, Chile, the Chile of Allende, we remember not only of Allende, we have shown so many times the ITT book, the International Telegraph and Telephone, that created the coup against Allende by bombing the government palace. Allende, with his steel helmet, that he was a soldier. Some say he killed himself, while others say that he was murdered. But there were planes that were bombing the palace of the government. It's something difficult to understand and figure in the place where we live today. Unfortunately, Chileans have to fight for this. And just like here as in Uruguay, where I was born, you have free education from the kindergarten to a graduate degree. But people get the government they deserve, right? And let us not speak about our neighbors, because they are bigger things. Senator Paul Coverdell. Look for this. We still have a couple minutes left in the show. Search for this. I used the Cajigalza, and remember this. Look, search Senator Paul Coverdell of Plan Colombia, and his phrase directing everything after all the treasons with traitors as the ones that have betrayed Bolivar, and after every time he forgave them, there was another treason. So, Senator Paul Coverdon, and I close with this. He said, this is a quote that I learned which occurs in the States, but then I ratify this information here. To control Venezuela, it is necessary to occupy Colombia militarily. Back then, it seemed like crazy thoughts, but now there are 7 bases in Colombia. They have granted their space to the Americans. And where are they? Oh, they're a part of the NATO. This means that if we defend ourselves from an aggression that comes from Colombia to NATO, so the United States, with the mandate of the White House, have to support Colombia immediately because that's their commitment as members of the NATO. And what do we have behind this? The greatest oil riches in planet Earth, as well as of weird minerals, biodiversity, and even water. That's why there are some children of the Great Britain, with all due respect. I will stop here because I don't want to continue speaking about our so-called brothers. So wherever you may be, thank you for allowing us to be there with you. From Studio 3 of Venezuela Televisión, here a closed dossier. We will meet again on Monday, if nothing happens, because if not, we'll be here airing our program, wherever you may be. Thank you for allowing us to be there with you. This program is created in Studio 3 of Venezuela Televisión, VTV. If you watch us in Telesur, don't send information to Telesur because we'll not receive it. Don't be part of the statistics. Shabbat Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Pax Bovis. Director, the floor is all yours.